welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley. I'm a writer, an astrologer, and a card reader, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Happy Tuesday. It is How to Tarot Tuesday, and that is a video series here on my channel where every week we talk about one card from the 78 card tarot. The beginning of the video is dedicated to a description of the symbols in the card, and then after we talk about the card's meaning, I do let you, the viewer, choose from one of 3 tarot decks. The 3 decks are chosen based on the representation of the card that we're discussing, so I choose the images that I think best describe the card that we're talking about. And when you go ahead and choose your deck, I will do a spread to see how that card is manifesting in your life. So anytime, if you ever want to skip straight to your reading, the timestamps are in the description box below, as are the names and authors of the decks that I use. Now, today we are talking about an important card. We're talking about the Five of Pentacles. And as usual, I've picked 3 cards, 3 decks that I think best represents this card. When I get to your reading, I am going to be I'm going to be clarifying with some additional oracle cards. They're called the Little Reminder cards, and again, the names are of the decks that I use are in the description box. But I just felt like, especially because of this card, that we definitely wanted some additional clarification. It's a saying that I have here on my channel that there are no bad cards in tarot. A lot of times, when you're learning the tarot, you'll see a card and you might think, oh gosh, I don't even want to learn about that one. Cards like, the devil or tower or death. You look at it and you think, oh gosh, that's got to be an awful card, right? And today's card is a little bit of kind of the same energy. There are a few cards that really talk about, distress or, in this case, feeling impoverished. And one thing that I just want to state before we get into the description of the card is that the important thing about studying those cards, or at least learning about the symbolism, is that even though that shows up in a reading, it doesn't mean that it's permanent. It could be a fleeting energy. It can be something, it could just be the way that you feel and not really reality. And the other thing is that the benefit of learning about it is that, even if you are legitimately going through, kind of a hard time, by looking at the situation and analyzing it, it can help you navigate the situation. It can help you think honestly about the situation and, maybe find a way to feel better or find a way to kind of evolve past that energy. And that's what I love about cards. It's kind of like therapy. It's like looking at the images and deciding, okay, why do I feel that way? What caused these feelings? How can I get past these, or how can I deal with it, right? So that said, we're going to go ahead and get started. And the Five of Pentacles is a very powerful card. It's a card that not many people want to see in a reading, right? And what it is 5 is the number of change, and pentacles are a sign of the physical and fiscal, like financial. And in this card, and this is a very clear depiction, the first deck is the Rider-Waite-Smith by A.G. Mueller. And what you see is a stained glass window of what looks like a church, and in it you see 5 pentacles that are kind of glowing with a warm light. Just beyond the windowsill, you see snow steadily falling down, and you see 2 persons who look like they look like they are adrift, and they look like they are very deeply impoverished, possibly homeless or without anywhere to turn. The woman is wearing a very tattered cloak and, very threadbare. Both persons look like they're barefoot. They are walking past the window as if they don't see the window behind them. And then there's also a smaller person who looks like it might be a man who is crunched over. He's got a bandage around his head and he's on crutches. One foot is bandaged up, and it looks like he is just, hobbling along. So what you see here is, in this image, you see 2 persons who are having a very hard time. They're down and out. They don't look like they have enough to sustain just regular, life. It's like, you get a great sense that they have been without for a long time. And it definitely gives you a sense of empathy for what they're going through, because they look like they're cold, they look like they are adrift, they look like they have been abandoned, right? So the first meaning that we see anytime you see the Five of Pentacles is, and because Pentacles is money, the first thing you think is hard times, like debilitating, crippling hard times. It really means running into material troubles. It really means something that might have been a very, like might have had a crashing blow, like you suddenly are without any money whatsoever. Last week when we talked about the Four of Pentacles, we talked about someone who's more frugal with their money, someone who's cautious to not lose. The Five of Pentacles is a bit of a contrast from that. And again, 5 meaning change. The number 5 means change, or something that's not stable, or something that's in flux. But the 5 usually means, while the 4 will sometimes mean that you are really clamping down on money to make sure you have enough, the 5 is really about not having any money at all. The 4 would be about, being paycheck to paycheck and making sure that paycheck stretches. The 5 is like the not even stretching, it's snapping, right? It's definitely more of, running into extreme, lack. So in that vein, it can mean about losing an income. It can mean losing a job. It can mean that you've been without work for a while and that things are really, really starting to get tough. It can be, going through a period of extreme hardship, meaning that, you might be getting, it's definitely a robbing, what they call robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're making decisions, especially if you see this next to maybe the Two of Pentacles. It really would mean, okay, am I using what money I have to pay the utility bill or put food on the table? And one, if you sacrifice one, the other will get turned off, or be depleted. It can definitely mean feeling inadequate to that extreme. It can mean like you feel like you just don't have enough. You can feel like you're really, really broke in an extreme sense. And it just usually means that you really are feeling very, very materially impoverished. Sometimes this can be, if you see this next to like the Tower card, it can mean that maybe this poverty came about from some kind of sudden action. Maybe you had a storm come through and hit your property, and then you don't have the money to replace it. It can mean like maybe an insurance claim has not been fulfilled, and so now you're stuck in a really rough place. A lot of times it just means lacking support. Many tarot readers, the first thing that we say is we refer to this as being the left out in the cold card. Like you're, the other thing is that a lot of times you can feel like, this, and especially, and it's kind of, I knew this was going to be a hard read for me, because times being as they are with the pandemic, it's like a lot more people are facing this than normal. And it's just heartbreaking to me. But what it is that it really is, you see some people who are adapting to the current economic climate and they're surviving, and then there's some people who are very, very impacted by it and are having a really hard time. So it is kind of like that. What it is that you can see the two people are not looking at the glowing light of the church. And when you look at it, there's warmth inside, right? The church is right behind them, right? But they're not looking at it. It's almost like they're purposely looking away. So sometimes that can be a symbolism of maybe you're trying not to look at other people do well and survive while you're having it real hard. Either that, or you have kind of the blinders on where you're really just trying to survive on your own will. You're trying to take care of you, but it seems like, again, you feel like you're left out in the cold. You feel like, you're just, you're struggling to make ends meet. The other thing that it can be is that it can be lacking support, like you can really feel rejected. This can be a sign of, maybe your employer went out of business, or a lot of times it can be, a sense where you feel really kind of abandoned. When you see this around a Cups card, when it pertains to relationships, you can feel rejected in a romantic sense. Maybe someone's not talking to you, or someone's being really cold to you. Maybe someone is going on with their life in a very, very bold way and just ignoring you, and you just feel it. You feel left out in the cold. The other thing is that when you see the Five of Pentacles, if it is in a romantic or relationship sense, it usually means that you think the other person, when you see the glowing light of the chapel, you just think that they're doing so well compared to you. You really feel like inadequate by comparison. When you see this card, it can mean that maybe you feel like you can't provide. If you see this next to a court card, like a king card or a queen card, sometimes that can make you feel, especially if it's like a pentacle court in reverse as well, you can feel like you're just not able to survive. If you see this next to pages, maybe you're a parent and you feel like you just don't have enough. Sometimes I see this come up when, I see this come up sometimes when maybe you have a child or a teenager, and they really want the latest sneakers that cost $200, or in order to be cool at school they need the better clothes, and you just can't really afford it right now. That it can come up in that sense where you just feel like, okay, everybody's abundant and have enough for those little kind of that gravy kind of stuff, and you don't have any room for gravy. You barely have enough for the bare meat. It can mean that it also, in the fact that it can make you, this card can mean that you feel ostracized. Sometimes if you've taken an opposite or an unpopular position, so say for instance you see the Five of Pentacles next to the Seven of Wands, and we have a tarot on the Seven of Wands, but it usually means that because you've taken a position, you can be disowned. It can be a sign of that. Maybe someone's cut you out of a will, or someone's just not giving to you because you've gone against them. It can be that sense also in a relationship sense, where if there was a breakup and someone's just being really nasty to you. The other thing is that this can come up in a feelings context if you feel excluded. Sometimes socially, and if there's court cards around it, maybe you were dealing with a clique or something like that, and all of a sudden, you feel like you're purposely being excluded. I know it seems a little extreme to see people on crutches and say, okay, how can that be like a social media thing? But you actually do see that very, very clearly with, with young people today, even older people, this is not, about the generation gap, but, social media and, the fact that we are living so virtually now. The Five of Pentacles can be a sign of bullying, especially if you see it around swords cards. It can mean that, again, maybe someone online is really trying to, badmouth you, or trying to exclude you, or trying to isolate you. Because when you think about it, social media is not much different than, it's different from being in person, but the friend dynamic, the group, the herd dynamic is the same, where if you really want to exert your power, what you do is you isolate and conquer, and the Five of Pentacles might be something like that. And the traditional Five of Pentacles, when you see two people, it could mean that you're not the only one that this happened to, especially with the Rider-Waite-Smith. Take into consideration who's in the card. but it usually means receiving some kind of disapproval and, being separated, and probably I do get a little bit of persecution in this as well. It is almost as if, certain things were withheld from you in order to, make you feel lack, right? You were subjected to lack, or you feel like you were. Now, the last, the middle deck that I went with is actually quite, I knew a long time ago I wanted to go with this card, but the second deck I went with is the Vice Versa Tarot. And what it is with the Vice Versa Tarot, you do see the same kind of image. It's not snowing in this one, but you see snow on the ground. You do still see someone here with a crutch in the corner, and he's still leaning against the church window, right? And you can tell he looks like he's down and out. This deck kind of, all three decks kind of break my heart, but this one kind of looks like more of someone who might be panhandling. The other thing is that when you look at his hands, you see that he's casting a dice, and when you look at the dice, it has the number 1, which is the losing, when you roll a 1, it's usually a losing number. So in that sense, it can mean someone who gambled and lost. It can mean someone who might have, like, if you see this next to a card like the Devil, it might be someone who has ups and downs due to some kind of addiction with money. It could also mean that, again, if you see this next to a Justice card or something like that, it could mean that maybe you lost some kind of court case that really just took everything that you had. The other thing that when we get to the Five of Pentacles in reverse, the Vice Versa Tarot does not have a formal card back. The back of the card acts as the reversal, and that's why I chose it, because in a minute when we look at the Five of Pentacles in reverse, both sides of the card really speak very clearly to the meanings of this. But when I definitely get more of this card in a reading, I see more of a, somebody who has hit kind of rock bottom. And definitely if you see that next to maybe the Ten of Swords or the Devil, it might be due to some kind of addiction, possibly to gambling, or to some other thing. Either that, or the other way that I kind of read that is maybe you took a gamble and you lost big, right? Now, the other thing is that the last card that I got, what I thought was really interesting is, and this was a tough choice. I recently did a deck review for the Starseeker Tarot, and the Five of Pentacles in that deck was very moving as well. I really liked the imagery, but I decided instead to go with the Spacious Tarot, because what you see here is in the Spacious Tarot there are no human figures. It's all nature, right? It's all natural. And what you see in this image is you see footprints, and you see what looks like kind of a wolf, like a dog. And he looks kind of skinny. He looks like a stray dog, right? And he's climbing a very kind of steep mountain. The colors look very brown, right? It does kind of look like winter. It looks like, something that's not growing, right? Something that is in a state of kind of detrinement. And when you look at the top of the hill, you see 5 pentacles, and it almost looks kind of like Stonehenge, right? But you see someone, what moved me about that is that you see kind of a dog that looks a little bit thin, and it's almost like, again, you're climbing a mountain. You're hungry, you're tired, and you're climbing a mountain to get to something. And so the what that tells me, and that's the reason I chose it for the third card, is the Five of Pentacles really is the third kind of meaning that you get with it, is that you feel like you're toiling away, is kind of what it is. So the Five of Pentacles can be that job where you feel like it can be that feeling like you're wasting your talent. Maybe you're a real good singer, a real good dancer, but you have to, you have to provide by doing the 9 to 5 job that pays less than minimum wage, and it's really wearing away at you. It just feels tedious. It feels like the dirge. You feel like you're not getting anywhere. The other thing is that it might not be meeting your needs. You might be falling short every, money wise. So you feel like you're hungry. And the other thing is that with the Five of Pentacles, it does make you feel like you're just walking and walking and walking and not getting anywhere, right? Sorry for the background noise. But it feels like you're starving, and it's almost as if you have to work 3 times harder in order to get 1/3 of the, of what you need in life, right? It is. I always think of, you think of the expression, work smarter, not harder. The Five of Pentacles almost speaks to me of the reverse. You're working harder, not smarter. And it isn't because you're not smart, and it isn't because you're not deserving. It's just you might find yourself in a situation. I've read some great biographies of some great authors, and I'll tell you, honestly, not to sound strange, but true story. If you read the biography, I think it's called, the title of the book is called On Writing by Stephen King. And he worked as a janitor. He worked like 3 jobs. He worked as a janitor, cleaning up some really nasty stuff. And then he also worked at a crab house washing, he washed table linens that were disgusting. And these were odd jobs that, Stephen King, millionaire Stephen King did before he wrote the first book that made him famous and very rich. So I kind of think of it like that. It's like you're doing, and personally, I never think that I don't think there's anything, I don't think there's no such thing as a meaningless job. I'm grateful for every job that a person does. Whether you're serving someone their coffee in the morning, whether you work at a fast food restaurant, I'm grateful for the people who work hard like that, because they are talented people, they're skilled people, and it does, that's where the Five of Pentacles really pulls at me, because when you feel like you have to work that hard, when you have to really, really, struggle, and all you're doing you're barely making the money that you need to survive. And this bridges into the very last meaning of the Five of Pentacles upright. And what that is that, and this is where this card really plays into it, is it's feeling really run down and tired, right? It's feeling like you don't have any energy left to give. A lot of times it can mean, especially if you see this next to the Two of Pentacles, maybe you are working 2 jobs. And again, times being as they are, maybe you're really working 2 jobs and you're exhausted. God bless you if you work in healthcare and you work 16-hour days. You come home, you have to, decontaminate yourself, and you add in the extra, taxation. It's not only physical, mental, emotional, but then it's psychological, because you come home and you think, okay, am I gonna spread disease to my family because of where I work, right? So it is almost like, it can be you really pushing yourself to the limit. Maybe you work 1 job, but you've really been putting a lot of hours in and you're not really taking good care of yourself. It can definitely mean that you're not getting enough sleep, or especially with the fiscal side of it, maybe you're just buying really cheap processed food that's not good for you, and it's wearing on you. It's, you're burning yourself out each day working 12 hours, and then you're not eating good food, you're not sleeping, or getting a chance to exercise or be out in nature. The other thing is that it can be feeling ragged. Maybe the job that you're doing is not satisfying you, and that can take a real toll on your body, when you're doing something that you don't like to do, but you have to do it for the money. That really does, it raises the cortisol in your body, and it's hard on you. The other thing is that, it can flat out mean that maybe you are getting sick, maybe you are working or maybe you're not able to work because of an illness, maybe And I can tell you, I've definitely had times in my life where I've really suffered with different. I remember one time in my life I had a really bad stomach illness, and it was just the worst. It was the absolute worst. I had to continue to go to work each day, and anytime you take work off work, it's not like you're on vacation. You're suffering with symptoms from something that's very debilitating. And then, this could be, that's where, so it can be you fighting a physical illness. You might be working at the same time or trying to work. The other thing is that it can be medical bills. Maybe you've had a chronic illness that you've had to manage, and then when it's, springs up and gets bad, it would show up as Five of Pentacles, and, something that's really hindering you, and also leaving you kind of broke because you have to pay for it. The last meaning of it is that it can really mean abusing your body. Like maybe this is very much a depression kind of card. And when you feel depressed, when you feel like you don't have enough, it kind of goes into it starts to become a down spiral. And in that down spiral, if you are drinking, or, maybe you're smoking more, it could be affecting your health. And when you do that, it just becomes kind of that negative cycle. Also, again, just feeling, I do also think it can be a cycle of negative talk to yourself. Again, when you feel like you don't have enough to provide, you might feel like you're being a bad parent. Or the other thing is that when you see this around court cards, sometimes this can be affecting someone else that inadvertently transfers over to you. Like, again, it can be a sick parent, it can be a sick child. And, and you just, and I see that a lot too when you see the two people in the card. Now, when we go ahead and look at and just one last thing is sometimes it can really mean that you need to seek medical attention. And I'm sorry to get that out there before we go into the reversal. Because the other thing is when you look at these two cards, again, the stained glass window in the background is kind of sanctuary, right? The church is there, it's right there. But what I kind of think of, one other interpretation, especially if you see this next to maybe the Four of Swords, is that it is possible that there are people out there who, there's no harm to it. There are folks who don't like going to the doctor because they know it'll be expensive, or they think that what the doctor's going to say, right? Maybe you've been a smoker forever, you like your steak, and your heart's not as strong as it should be, and you're almost terrified, you're afraid to go in and spend the money to have the doctor tell you what you already know, right? So that's also what I see, is that you're almost keeping yourself outside of the sanctuary because you don't want to go inside. And there's a reason, and there would be a reason why. And if you see that around a swords card, it's usually something in your mind that you already know, right? But it can also mean that someone needs medical attention. So if you see that come up in a spread and someone has been feeling under the weather, you might want to encourage them to video chat their doctor, and sometimes, again, this is perceptional. Sometimes you're terrified that it's going to be a bad diagnosis, and you don't know. Sometimes if you see the Five of Pentacles followed by a really bright card like the Star, you could be worrying over nothing. So if we go ahead and look at the Five of Pentacles in reverse, anytime a card is in a reverse, it really means one of two things. It means either the energy is extreme, like it can mean the energy is getting worse, or it can mean that the energy is releasing, it's dissipating, it's finally going away. And anytime I see the Five of Pentacles in reverse, and I especially love this depiction, the A.G. Mueller is very clear. It's a very clear deck. It has such, the writer Waite Smith has been reproduced so many times that the plates get a little blurry sometimes. But with this deck, you see the snow. But whenever I see the Five of Pentacles in reverse, the first thought that I get is the good thought, which is you're coming out of hard times, right? It can mean that you had a stint of unemployment, but you landed the job interview, and you're coming out of the woods. There's light at the end of the tunnel, right? It can mean that, okay, starting next week, I can expect a paycheck within, 2 to 3 weeks, right? The other thing is that one other interpretation of the Five of Pentacles upright is that sometimes it can mean a risky employment, and I do kind of see that with the throwing of the dice. So, maybe the Five of Pentacles in reverse can definitely mean that you no longer have to do the kind of shady work. Either that, or maybe if again, with things being so uncertain, maybe you were waiting for news of materials coming in, and with the Five of Pentacles in reverse, it means that things are starting to look brighter. Things are starting to, it's no longer a gamble, right? It's a sure thing. It can also mean that the depression is lifting, that there's more certainty into what you can do. Just like we were talking about, maybe you finally did break down and, called the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh yeah, that's just indigestion. You're okay. And, and you feel much better. Sometimes it can be, maybe you, the thing that you can do is you can think that things have just turned for the better. The other thing that I see is that with the stained glass meaning kind of church, I can see that you can finally, that the reversal would mean that you're finally embracing the good in the situation, like you're regaining your faith. That things are not as gloomy as you thought. Either that, or with the reversal, you might have actually walked into the church. If you have been working in kind of tough working conditions, it can mean that that's getting better, that there's an improvement there, or you found something in your working life that makes you happy, that there's some little piece of sunshine that you can look forward to in your daily working environment. So a lot of times it just means that health is improving. The other thing is that, just like we talked about with the upright, if you really are having a week where you feel really burnt out, the Five of Pentacles in reverse can be really saying you need to take a break. Don't continue to push yourself. If you feel like hammered hell, don't, try to see if you can call out from work maybe one day to kind of recoup. It also means that, that you just genuinely feel a lot psychologically better about what's going on. Now, the other thing that I kind of see is in the same vein of kind of, feeling a little bit better about your job or your working life or your obligations, right? This one in reverse, I thought of something really kind of happy when I saw this card. I looked at the dog. And what happened was, the other week, I actually went to sleep, and I had this really crazy nightmare. It was kind of scary. And so I found myself waking up at 4 in the morning, or I think it was like 3:30 in the morning. And I didn't really want to go back to sleep right away because it was a scary dream, and I was still a little rattled from it. So I recently jumped on the Disney Plus bandwagon, and I went ahead, and I'd been meaning to watch the live action movie of Lady and the Tramp. And I went ahead and watched the live action, and I've seen the cartoon as well. But I watched the movie until like 6 a.m. and then I went back to sleep. But it was, what I thought was cute about that movie, and the reason I'm referencing it here, is that when you look at, and especially when you see the Five of Pentacles in the reverse, when you look at the dog, I kind of thought about the tramp in that movie. And what it is the tramp was an abandoned dog, right? He was a dog who had a family, and then, the moment that, he got left, put out on the street, as a homeless dog, he, throughout the movie, he played up the freedom of not having a house, right? He didn't want to be adopted, right? He was living the good life. He's like, you're free, you can do whatever you want, the world is your oyster, da da da. And I kind of see that, I get that energy, especially with the dog in this card. And when you watch the movie, it resonated with me for the 5 in reverse, is that it can kind of be like that. It usually means trying to see your situation in a more positive light, and that things will get better. But it can also mean someone who doesn't mind, that kind of the not saying that living paycheck to paycheck is ideal, but it can definitely mean the person who likes the freedom of not having to rely on anyone. The other thing is that sometimes the 5 of Pentacles can be a little bit of a fear of leaving what you know, right? And again, the fact that the 5 is about having experienced some kind of, most of the time these feelings are a result of some kind of trauma, right? So, finding the good in your situation, and also, it's somebody who's very shrewd from their, as they go forward, as life gets better for them, they're never going to forget, the hardship. They're going to learn from it. But it is having a renewed faith. It's looking at that situation and saying, I'm not broke. I've got enough. I've got me. I can go where I want to. I can do what I choose. It's like it's seeing the good side of it, even though something kind of, debilitating happened. Now, the other thing is that with the 5 in reverse, it can also mean a compression. Sometimes it does mean that when it rains, it pours, right? It can sometimes mean that whatever situation you're in is getting progressively worse. When it shows up in reversal that way, it usually is a very big red flag that some kind of action needs to take place, right? But definitely look at surrounding cards. Usually it would, kind of give you an idea of what you can do. If the 5 in the Pentacles in reverse is next to like a Tower card, it usually means that something very dramatic happened, but, looking at surrounding cards, it can help you navigate it and see how things could get better. But again, for it being kind of a more austere card, and, it being a little bit more of a real world, the thing that you don't want to look at or acknowledge. This is really it's a very descriptive card, and it conveys a lot of deep meaning, and it's definitely one that you want to consider and really, not look away from when you get it in a read. But alright guys, so I knew that was going to be a little bit more of a description, but we're going to get into your read. The first deck is the Rider-Waite-Smith, and with it we have a sunstone. And we got beautiful sunlight coming through the window. I wanted to do it while the sun was out, The second deck is the Vice Versa Tarot, and with it is my favorite Dalmatian Jasper. This is a lucky stone. And then the last deck is the Spacious Tarot, and with it we have an aquamarine. And I did also want to just let you know that the cards that I got, I figured since the 5 of Pentacles is more of a fiscal, it's more of a financial card, I did go with the little reminders. These are like positive affirmation cards. They are a lot of them talk about how to become more affluent with money. But there's others meanings as well, and I just thought the keywords were great. The top card says empowerment, which I think is wonderful to pull out, so I am going to clarify your read with one of those cards. On top of the deck, I just wanted to point this out. I have a quartz owl, and I think owl is wisdom, and this is Lucky the owl, and he has one foot. He has a left foot, and it's his good foot. I have an affinity for maimed stone animals. My frog has one eye. But Lefty has one foot, and I just thought, he's wisdom, and it's his left foot and it's his good foot, and I just thought, you know, to give you some lucky, happy energy with the Five of Pentacles reads. But I'll go ahead and I'll let you choose your deck. If you like the art, if you like the stone, maybe you like the timestamp, whichever one you're drawn to. If you need more time, please pause the video, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're back. I'm going to go ahead and move up the other decks so we have room. So deck number 1, the Rider-Waite-Smith. Let's see, how does the Five of Pentacles manifest in your life? So, and again, if there's any messages that you do not think are resonating, you could always choose a different pile or even a different video. I always believe that whatever you're drawn to usually has a message, the message that you're meant to hear. If it is not resonating, you do not need to take the message. These are just symbols on cards, so they do not have any, you know, impact on your life. They are just almost like reading, you know, images in a dream. And I just wanted to point out that as I was shuffling, the Fool kept showing up on the bottom of the deck. So I really think that's like, it's saying that you're going to have a new beginning, you know, so I think that's positive. So Five of Pentacles, there you go. Currently, wow. Okay, and future. Okay, I am going to go ahead and take all 4. I know this seems like a lot, but it's not crazy. And there we go, the Fool on the bottom of the deck again. Two of Cups is trying to come up on top. So let me go ahead and what is your message? Number 1. Okay, wow, those flew. I'm sorry if you saw the top of my head there. Okay. Okay, wow guys, you got quite a bit here. All right. So in the past, I am strongly getting a relationship vibe from this, guys, because the other thing is the Two of Cups was trying to pop out on top. But in the past, you got the Ace of Pentacles, and we had a tarot not too long ago on that. So in the past, you had a great financial opportunity. You had, not too long ago, you had a very strong financial start in some way. And that could have been funding from some source. It could have been a windfall. It could have been a raise at work. But you were really on track. You started off really strong, and things looked positive, right? This is a glowing hand from the universe handing you a coin, right? And then, you know, what's happening here is that right underneath the Five of Pentacles, I know this is going to sound really crazy, but also, you know, in a relationship sense, yeah, because we got the Six of Cups here. We got the Six of Cups. What's happening presently is that I do think that you feel left out in the cold by a relationship. What we have here is you have the Seven of Pentacles and the Six of Cups. The Six of Cups is a reunion card. It's really a sign of close companionship with someone that you know, someone that you feel like a kindred connection with. It can be someone from your past. It can be someone that you grew up with or someone that you know really well. But you feel like you're not enough. And you can be a man or a woman watching this reading. I'm getting more of a feeling like you might be masculine. Because I'm getting almost kind of like a provider kind of vibe. In the past, you were really starting something, like you were really trying to lay a cornerstone for something, and you feel like you see how in the Seven he's growing his pentacles, right? But he's observing them. He's looking at them like, okay, this isn't growing fast enough, or, you know, when can I harvest this, right? And it's almost like you want to harvest this in order to, it's almost like you want to harvest this in order to, to you have very fond memories on your mind. You're thinking of someone that you spent time with, and it's almost like you're saving up this money for them, or in order to go back to that situation. I'm getting a strong sense that you're almost feeling like you had a strong start to making money because you want to have some kind of reunion with someone. Sorry, but I'm sorry for the background noise. But what's happening is I do sense that I feel like you feel like you're not making enough money, and the other thing is that, you know what I'm almost getting? I'm almost getting a sense like you can earn enough money to be self-sufficient on your own. Like, you almost want to be self-sufficient on your own. You just want to worry about yourself, right? You don't, there is a sign here that, there's a sign here that you almost, in the past, that you wanted to start earning enough money to collaborate with someone. It's almost like you wanted to, kind of build an empire and be really financially stable. Because seriously, guys, we've got Ace, 5, 9, and 7. These are all pentacles. Money is really playing in. Your past and your present is very, very money focused. And what I'm kind of seeing here is that I'm almost getting a vibe like in the past, you really had a sound start to something, and your intention was that you were gonna start with the Ace and get to the 10, and then as soon as you get to the 10 of Pentacles, you wanted to approach someone. You wanted to approach someone and really kind of have that world, that kingdom with someone, and it's someone that you knew. But you started with the Ace, and you started off strong. You started off real strong. But what happened was, it's like you either weren't getting enough back from this relationship. Maybe you felt like this person wasn't being a team player. Or the other thing that I'm kind of getting is I'm getting this feeling like you felt like you were growing these pentacles by yourself. You had the intent of, going back to this person and declaring love. But for some reason that didn't happen. Maybe you felt like this was, this wasn't going the direction that you wanted it to. So instead, you took those pentacles, because this is going from 7 to 9, right? You grew from 1 pentacle to 7. You planted that pentacle and grew 7 more. Grew 6 more, right? So you got up to 7, right? And when you got up to 7, you were really thinking about someone. The other thing is that the 6 of Cups is really fond memories. This person that you're thinking of really made you happy. It made you happy. You felt like home with them. But something happened where you did not go back for this person. You still have fond memories of this person. But your 7 pentacles grew into 9. And you're sitting real pretty right now. You're sitting real pretty. You know what, guys? I have to call it. I have to read them. And please, don't shoot the messenger. But I think you're doing very well with money right now. I think you are very self-sufficient. This person is alone in a garden, and they have I think you're sitting really pretty. I think this 5, this lack that you're feeling, I think it's emotional. I think you feel left out in the cold by this person. I think you feel like you have it all financially, you have it all you have it physically. You have it physically, but you're missing somebody from your past. And honestly, this person from the past was the person that you were collecting all these coins for. But you feel like you're out in the cold. The other thing is that the 5 of Pentacles is still feeling like you're not enough, which is crazy because you're in this garden. You got 9 pentacles. You're one pentacle away from the 10, but yet you're still feeling like this. what's up with that. The other thing that I can think of with this is that maybe on the outside you really are independent, but the only other thing I can think of is that maybe there is some kind of action that you need to take towards this, you're having fond memories about something, and that fond memory is still making you feel inadequate, which is very contradicting energy. I know that sounds crazy to say, but I did. You planted your seed, you grew to 7, and you still feel like you didn't have enough, and you were still dreaming about this person. You have fond memories of someone, and it's almost like you were growing this garden in order to, I do get a sense of like, I'm getting a sense of like a homesteader. That's the theme I keep saying. I know that's a weird analogy. Someone who goes, who leaves their family, right, to go make the money and build the house, and then they're going to come back and get their family, right? Once everything's set up. But what I'm seeing is that you got out to the land site, you made the money, you built the house, but you're out there by yourself. But it's almost like you still, even though you have 9 pentacles, you still feel like, I don't know if something about this situation felt like it wasn't growing fast enough, or the only other thing that I can kind of think of is that the other thing about the 5 of Pentacles is it can be a little bit of fear. It can be fear. You could be afraid. And again, you could be a man or woman in this energy. Maybe you like the independence, like you maybe you're afraid of not being enough for someone, right? Like if you go and collect this person, like say for instance, you go and you propose marriage to someone. That's a very big commitment, and it's understandable. It's a scary thing. You're sharing your finances with someone. You're sharing all this hard work that you did. You would be giving half of it to someone, right? In essence, right? And if this person doesn't have the same values that you do, so I think you're almost afraid, even though you have a lot. You're sitting really pretty. I think you're still afraid that if because the other thing is the 5 is almost half of 9, right? It's, if you had 10 pentacles, half of it would be 5. I do think that you have some kind of fear of change. Also, quite possibly that maybe you grew up, or maybe you've had lack in the past, and you're really afraid that, the moment that you commit to somebody, that it's going to just, that it could... it's almost like you feel like you can't maintain it. Yes, you have the 9 of Pentacles now, but the moment you get somebody obligated on you, or someone that's, there, that you have to support, you're gonna, you wouldn't be able to maintain that 9 independence. I also think that you're afraid of losing that independence. But in the future, this is quite interesting. In the future, you got quite a line here. You've got the 10 of Wands and you've got the Devil. And above it, you got the Empress and you got the Sun. So in the future, I am getting kind of a vibe where I do think, and you can be a man or woman watching this, I do think that it is a fear of having a family, because again, this could be fear, this could just be fear. The Devil is a codependency card. It's feeling chained to something, feeling obligated. And the 10 of Wands is really about being overwhelmed, right? You working yourself to death. And remember, we talked about that. You working yourself to death. To maintain this, right? Now, I'll tell you right now, the Empress and the Sun speaks very strongly of a family. The Empress is the mother, right? And the Sun the Sun has a baby in it, right? And the Sun itself usually means the divine masculine. It means the divine masculine. So I can read this one of two ways. I can think that possibly you were in this present energy, you were enjoying your independence, but then you did go back and you decided to get married. If you're a woman watching this, it could be a legitimate fear, because we're not immune to this. Just because you could be afraid of the financial responsibility that a family would bring, because having a baby is not cheap, and making sure that you have enough money to support. It can be overwhelming. It can make you feel really kind of obligated and trapped. But on the other side, these are two very, the Empress is a very nurturing card, and the Sun is just pure happiness, right? So the two ways that I read it is that in present energy, you might be feeling like, okay, I just want to stay independent. I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids, but I'm thinking about this person and they make me so happy, I don't want to, I don't want to give into this fear. So what I'm seeing here is, root to the top. I think that moving forward, you are going to overcome your fear. You are going to feel a little bit burdened. It's going to be hard. The other thing is that the Ten of Wands is really kind of dealing with your demons. It's kind of like saying, okay, I'm not going to let the devil energy deter me, and it's kind of doing the work, right? It's taking on the lion's share of the work. So I do think that one way I read this is that yes, you will go back and get this person. It is going to take a lot of work. It's not going to be easy. You are going to have to overcome a lot of your fears. I'm seeing fears here. You're going to overcome a lot of your fears, but as you come out of that, you're going to get a lot of really great boons. This person's going to be the same person that you remember, right? It's going to be the same person that brings you happiness. This person that brings you all that sunshine, they're going to bring you that sunshine. And I do get the feeling that you're going to have like a family. I think what's going to happen is as you actually get past the fear part and you do actually get into the settled part, the other thing that I think of is that, these memories of being without from your past, they linger, and they can affect you where you think that you'll never be happy. Oh, okay, if I get married, it's going to be the ball and chain, right? But I think when you get past your fears, you're going to see how beautiful it is to have a family. To see that it isn't fighting, it isn't disagreeing, it isn't. You're gonna start seeing all those little beautiful moments. When your child says, mama or dada, or starts to, they're born and they look like you, or the other thing is that if you're a woman watching this, that sense, that glowing sense of being there for your spouse and being there for your child, I think it's going to bring you a lot of happiness. The other thing is that I'm getting is that you're going to come out of the dark. You're going to come out of the dark. It's not going to feel as much like an obligation. Now, the other way that I read that is that it could potentially mean that, you have a baby on the way. But it does kind of indicate kind of a marriage, and that's a little intimidating, But I do also feel like, even though this feels like an obligation, it is going to bring you a lot of happiness. But I am definitely, you don't necessarily have to, this doesn't mean that you're going to get pregnant and have a child, but I do think that the other side of this is just, if there's no children involved, it does mean that if you're a woman, you're going to be showing that really strong, loving, nurturing. You're going to be the kind of the empress of your household, and that household is going to be full of light and love and happiness. And if you're a man watching this, it's going to mean that those fears, yes, you have to work through those insecurities, but this person that you're going back for is your sunshine. They're the right person, and again, doesn't necessarily have to mean that they're bringing forth a baby, but this person's very nurturing to you, and you feel very free with them. They are your sunlight. Your spouse would be your sunshine, right? Now, the two cards that you got that wanted to fly out on the ground is you got non-attachment, and with it you got kind of a butterfly, but non-attachment, and it says, I am certain that I will reach my goal while letting go of how it will happen. Oh gosh, guys. You know what? The Devil card can mean a lot about control too. It can, it can kind of mean wanting to control a situation. It can kind of mean control issues, and definitely when you see this next to the Nine of Pentacles, you kind of want to call the shots. You want things to go your way. And then the other card you got is you got grounding. And yet again, you have two people here, right? You got two people here. Look at this. You got two and two. So grounding, and it says, I center and ground myself despite emotional upset around me. So yeah, so I definitely get a feeling, that despite how hard this is, because Five of Pentacles is hard, it's psychologically hard, I think you will come out of this energy. I think you will transition, and it's going to take some work, and I do think it's going to be, again, non-attachment. I think you really have to, you're going to be working hard to get over some insecurities, is what I'm feeling. But if you ground yourself and you try to let go, try to let go and let God. The other thing is, remember, it talks about that faith, right? I am hearing let go and let God, kind of embrace that faith. Know that, it's not as scary as you think it is. That you're really gonna be okay. But all right, guys, that was your read. That was real powerful. It was a little longer because we had more cards. But all right, so let's go ahead. Deck number 2, the Vice Versa Tarot. I do love this deck. And the one thing that, when you look at the back of it, I just wanted to point this out. When you look at the back of it, we didn't get a chance, I should have elaborated more in the description, but what it is that, when you're left out in the cold, the reverse of the card can really show somebody who's dressed very luxuriously, and he has his head in his hands, right? And what I kind of get from that is, it's the two sides of the same window, right? So you have someone who's like a pauper, kind of gambling, and, kind of looks like he's panhandling. And then the other person looks like they won, but you know what that kind of reminds me of is, that kind of reminds me that money doesn't buy happiness. And that is another meaning of the Five of Pentacles, is that, even if you win the throw of the dice, you see plenty of stories of people who have won the lottery, and, it didn't bring them any, it brought them more problems, that they ended up, going through the money quickly, or it gave them, I always think of the song, there is a song, More Money, More Problems. It doesn't always solve, what you're going through. Sometimes it just adds fuel to the fire, of what you're going through, and gives you more concerns. The other way that I kind of read that too is that it can be kind of, I do kind of read, especially that depiction, is that maybe a lot of your wealth is kind of not imaginary, but sometimes I read that as like your wealth being kind of tied up in investments that are fleeting, like you appear like you're wealthy, but it's really not there. I kind of think of it as being, what's the saying, when you're house rich but cash poor. All of your money is tied up in something that is really not yours. So you might be dressed elaborately, but you're still impoverished. That's when I see that image, that's what I kind of think of when I see this deck. But I will stop blabbering. Let's go ahead and get to your read. So deck number 2. Okay, and current energy. Thank you. Oh, holy Toledo. Future energy, please. Wow. Okay. Can I get one clarification card for the Nine of Swords, please? One clarification card for the Nine of Swords. The Three of Cups and Justice are also poking out as is strength in the reverse. Whoa. Okay, we will read it all together. Let's go ahead and get your card. Lucky the left-footed owl is guarding your advice cards today. So he has one foot and it's his good foot. He starts things off on the left foot. He doesn't start things off on the right foot. He starts things off on the left foot. Magnetism's trying to slide out as well. Here. Oh wow, that's really. All right, guys. So in the past, we got the Queen of Wands and we got it in reverse. So the Queen of Wands in reverse is, if this is your energy, and you can be man or woman watching the read and be in a queen's energy. You also have a queen here. In the past, I think in the past that you've had a real kind of, you've exerted kind of a strong control. I think in the past that you possibly, I'm getting a strong sense that maybe in the past you felt like you were denied a lot of control. Like, there's nothing more frustrating than being disempowered, right? When you feel like, and feeling the Five of Pentacles, feeling a lack, definitely makes you feel disempowered when you feel like you don't have enough to get by. So what I'm getting is, I'm really getting a sense that the Queen of Wands in the upright is a very dynamic woman. She's beautiful, she's well dressed, she's a leader, right? And when she's in the reverse, I definitely just get kind of a sense like, what I'm getting is, I'm not getting a sense that you were like, I don't think that you were a diva. I don't think that you were coming across as this strong, demanding woman. I'm almost getting a sense as if you were not able to shine very brightly in the past because you were limited by your environment and you were limited by fiscal concerns. Again, this can be if you've ever read biographies of someone who is an actress, right? But, they were one of 10 children and they didn't have enough growing up, they had to wear hand-me-down clothes. I'm kind of getting that kind of feeling. It's almost, you are a dynamic person, male or female. You are really, you have, the other thing we talked about is about you, feeling like, feeling as if you are not, you're not living up to your traits. Like, maybe you really are, I'm sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe you're very talented at something, but you don't get a chance to express that talent because you have to. I almost think of those CEOs, that went on to run gigantic production companies, but when they were young, they had to contribute to their family by doing a paper route, right? And again, I am getting a sense that you're a very dynamic person, but you've known lack, and you've almost had to play your talents down. You've had to be meek or kind of, play down your strengths in order to, provide financially. And it felt demeaning. It felt like less than you, but it wasn't, you felt like you were meant for more, right? And I think that fire of feeling like you were meant to do more is what really got you through. The other thing is, when you look at the background of this card, you see a sphinx, right? So I think that also tells me that a lot of your drive was hidden, or kind of you had to kind of subdue it, in order to make things work, or to, again, this would be the card of someone who is, meant to go on to be the billion-dollar CEO, but they got their start, working in food service. And again, when I say that, I have a high respect for any job that you do that is a service to anyone. I'm in customer service. I know exactly how that is. There are no, there's no tier to jobs in my mindset. So when I say that, I just mean that, you might have started off, doing what you had to do in a profession that was different from your career, but you did it because you had to do it, even though it kind of played down your very strong talents. So I feel like that's your past. I feel like your past was you're a powerhouse, but you might have, it might have been a little bit of a dimmed light, because you weren't able to really shine as, as brightly as you wanted to. Maybe you had to work to help provide for your family. Doesn't mean that you're married and have kids. It could be that you really you had to be strong for others. Now, the present energy is you got the Nine of Swords. And the Nine of Swords is, it's interesting. I talked about, in the intro, when I talked about the third deck, I mentioned how I had a nightmare and I was awake at like 4 in the morning. And this card is really interesting because when you look at the back, it's like you see the sun coming up and you see him sitting up in bed, right? I really think I think presently, you're really up at night because you do not want to continue squelching your talents. You're all wrapped up in thought. You're thinking, okay, how can I change this, right? The other thing is that if you are doing a job or if you're in a career that you feel like is not a right fit for you, maybe you feel like, because again, we saw Justice and we saw the Three of Cups. Also, the Queen of Swords is an echo of Justice. I really just think, I get a sense that you're thinking really long and hard how to get out of this energy of lack, right? You're thinking really long and hard. You're tired of being out in the cold. You're tired of doing something that's not fulfilling or is not letting you. I always relate it to being full throttle. Like, you really have to open up your skill set. At some point in your life, you have to let it rip, right? You have to go full force on what makes you happy, because when you get up in the morning, I know it sounds a little morbid, but there's videos that talk about the major regrets that you have in your lifetime. And on the top 10 list of major regrets is that, continuing to do something that that you felt obligated to do but wasn't really you, right? And so I think that's what you're doing presently, and you're feeling lack. And the crazy thing is that the energy that I'm getting is not so much financial lack, but just feeling like this guy, like, okay, I'm just doing the same old, I'm gonna get up in the morning, go sit on my stoop, throw my dice. And I get the sense that you've been doing this for a while, and I get the sense that you can really do so much more. So I do think right now you're kind of up in your head. I think you are awake at night deciding, okay, what can I do? The other side of this now is that if you are watching it, if you're watching this video at the time it was posted, which is in early July 2020, I do also think that you're trying to be careful because in this economy, our economy is evolving. With the pandemic, with things going on in the world, the way that you make money is changing, and you are right in the center of that storm. So, you have to also be careful. You can't just say, oh, well, I'm going to quit my job and go do this. It's not like, it's not like employment is the same way that it has always been, right? But underneath the Nine of Swords, we got the World, and we got the Queen of Swords. And wow, guys, I really think that's really positive energy. Now, the Nine of Swords is a lot of anxiety, and the Five of Swords is feeling like inadequate. It's feeling a strong sense of lack. But what I'm really getting is that the Queen of Swords is very smart. She doesn't do anything half-assed, pardon my French. But she thinks out a decision before she makes it, and she leaves her emotions out of the equation, right? She's not going to do anything reckless. It's always, the intelligent decision that she's going to make. And when you have it right next to the World The world is an ending of a cycle. The world is, the other thing is that when you look at the world, the four corners, and I think the four corners on this card are really cool, are the four fixed signs. You have Leo, you have Taurus, you have Aquarius, and the eagle is Scorpio. The eagle has, Scorpio has three representations, the scorpion, the eagle, and the phoenix. But I really think that with it being fixed signs all around this, you're ready to complete a cycle. You're ready for this meek, feeling less than energy to go. You're done with that, right? You're done with that. And you're thinking long and hard, and it's keeping you awake at night, but you're sitting up at night thinking about your future. Okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to change my life where I'm no longer doing this? And you're ready, you're going to make some, you're right now, you are in a position of deciding what your future is going to be. And you're not being dumb about it. The Queen of Swords, she is one sharp cookie. She's a queen. And the other thing is, if you look at her, she's wearing armor. She's ready to go. She's ready to go. But moving forward, the future that I see, and oh my goodness, I'll tell you guys, I've been seeing a lot of turtles. I saw a turtle just today. That's amazing. You got the Page of Pentacles. I'm sorry, you got the Page of Cups, and you got it in reverse. And you see a turtle right at his feet there, right? Now, the Page of Pentacles it's a very nurturing energy. It's very Piscean. And what I'm kind of getting from this is that it can mean that you might be kind of making a little bit of an emotionally based choice. But with the Queen being here and the thinking, I don't think that this is going to be a foolish choice. The other thing that I get is that with the turtle, I think the way you're going to handle it is you're going to do a lot of thinking, and you're going to take very small little steps. Again, the turtle goes slow. You're going to take slow and steady little, and this is a swimming turtle, it's a sea turtle. You're going to start very slowly kind of swimming the direction. You're going to start slowly going the direction that you want to go, the direction that actually fills your heart with joy. And with the Queen of Swords being here, I really think that you're gonna try to do the smart thing where if you have to work a certain job, in the meantime, you're going to go ahead and you're going to start to transition. Maybe you'll start doing something as a side project, or, maybe you'll start learning. The other thing that I get is that, when I see a page, especially the cups, I think what you might do is you might start to kind of dabble in things that really make you happy, and you're going to just see where those go. And it's going to be very, very slow. Right? Again, times being as they are, you're not going to do anything frivolous. You're not going to do anything rash or stupid. But what you're going to do is, the page is almost like an extreme, especially in the cups, it's almost like an extreme kind of innocence. You're really going to try to pursue what makes you feel happy, but you're going to go slow with it. You're going to go, I get a sense like you're really going to go slow. You're going to see what comes, right? And you're going to see what direction you can go. And I think you're going to do that slowly and in tandem with what you're already doing to see if there's a way out, right? To see if there's a place that you can go. And you're being very smart about it, right? But I do think that you're coming out of the Five of Pentacles energy because the world is a completion of a cycle. I think it's weighing very heavily on your mind. But the other thing about the page being in reverse is reversals can also mean that it's not here yet, like it's just a little bit delayed. This could also mean with current events, maybe you have to stay where you're at just a little bit longer because, the world has been turned on its head, therefore, but I do think that what you can do is, you don't have to stay in any stuck energy. Your cycle has completed. You can start making plans for the future, and then as you move forward, that page is going to flip, and you can, it would be a new beginning for you. It's just right now that new beginning is probably a little delayed and it's slowing you down. But, the turtles always get where he's going. He just, slow and steady wins the race. So, I am kind of hearing turtle in the hair too. The other thing that you can also do is, while you're doing all this thinking, as the world is changing, I always see pages. Page of Cups is kind of a unique energy because it's very emotional. But you can sometimes see where the world is going based on the needs of the world, right? And you would think, okay, in order to be successful, that needs to be the Page of Pentacles, or that needs to be the Page of Swords. I need to, think like a businessman. No, when you want to go somewhere in the future, you don't want to think like a businessman. You want to think like a consumer, right? Because the consumer is the future, right? The way people shop, the way people do business, that's where we're heading. And where we're headed is evolving right now. We're actually in the eye of a very big windstorm of change. And so even though it might delay you a little bit, I think it will also give you a little bit more time to see where you're going. And it would ensure that you're not, doing anything impulsive or going to make any mistakes. Now, the card that you got, which I thought was really interesting, is you got Attitude. And it says, I attract success and positive people into my life with my positive attitude. So the other thing that I'm seeing here too is that with the Queen of Wands, I can see it's a little bit of a closed off energy. I'm not saying that you're being cold. It's not like that at all. I do think I'm getting a real meek vibe. And I think you're a very strong person, but I don't think you show that to a lot of people. Like, it's almost like you keep it hidden. And I think people are curious about you too, because again, you have that Sphinx in the background. I think people know that you're a natural leader, but you haven't really shown that or let that off the leash. And so I think the other thing that, I think that also makes you feel really pent up. It kind of squelches your natural ability. And when you do that, when you hold yourself back, it does make you feel inadequate. It does make you worry. So the other thing is energy follows thought. So if you're in this attitude of, well, I'm not good enough, or I can't do this, I wouldn't be able to do this, you do have to change your way of thinking in order to get that new, So I do think the other thing is you do see a lot of stars in this background. So I do think I'm kind of hearing the phrase, sky's the limit. So I do think that you can do this. You can let your natural energy shine, but you do have to. You will want to think positively. The other thing is you do want to think like a child. You don't want to think. The other thing with this is that the Nine of Swords is a real compacted energy. It's ruminating. It's almost like you keep thinking in circles for a solution, and I think the solution is not going to be analytical. It's going to be more emotional, and it's coming, but it's coming very slowly. So just try to take this time to slow down, kind of open up your heart space a little bit, decide what feels good to you, like what is naturally you, and just kind of gently go in that direction. And but definitely try to keep those thoughts positive. You're not going to stay. I definitely don't feel like this Five of Pentacles energy is staying for any period of time. All right, so let's go ahead, and last but not least, we've got the Spacious Tarot. And I was saying in the intro, this deck, the reason I went with this deck is because it had the dog on it. The Spacious Tarot is all animal and nature cards. And the other day, it was a while ago, I had kind of a weirdo nightmare. It was a little bit of a scary one, nothing too spooky, but it jolted me awake at like 4 a.m. And then I really didn't want to go back to sleep. I was a little jostled. And so I turned on a streaming service and I watched the live action Lady and the Tramp movie. And I felt like the Tramp, him talking about, how he's a stray dog, but he has all the freedom that, he doesn't answer to anyone. And, it was kind of kind of like seeing the glass half full. You know, he didn't see it as having to scrounge for food. He saw it as, you know, I'm free to go wherever I want to go. And it was a cute movie, and it just kind of, you know, it kind of gave me a new perspective of the way that we look at, you know, hard times, right? You know, hard times. But all right, enough blabbering. I'm going to be clarifying your read with some affirmation cards. So Five of Pentacles, deck 3. How does the Five of Pentacles manifest in your life? Ooh, wow, guys. Okay, current energy, please. Second Devil. There are no bad cards in tarot, but I knew. It's also why this read was going to be, yes, the cavalry has arrived. Yes, that's what I like to see. What I like to see. Oh, very nice, guys. Okay, please clarify the Four of Swords, please. One card to clarify. One card to clarify. Second Page of Cups. Holy Toledo. Wow. And Justice is trying to peek out again. Wow. The other vibe that I'm getting here, guys, with this Justice and the Queen of Swords trying to pop out, you know, popping out all over, is that I really do think that if there's been any, if you've had to endure some kind of fiscal hardship because of the world kind of being unfair, those scales are going to be balanced, and you have Temperance here, which is recalibration. It's an imbalance being made balanced again, and that's okay. I'm gonna get to shushing. On top of the affirmation cards, we have Lucky, the left-footed owl. He's a lucky owl. He has a left foot that he starts out off, and it's a good foot. It's his lucky foot. And as I mentioned before, I have an affinity for maimed gemstone animals. I have a frog who has an eye problem. And then I have another one that, you know, I just think they're adorable. I think having flaws is cuter than being perfect. But that's just me. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to stop talking and start shuffling. What is your card? Okay, let me get into your energy. Oh, wow, guys. Ooh, we got a theme of honesty. Ace of Swords and honesty. There's some splaining that's going to be done, or some truth that's going to come out. That's awesome. You know, I love, I'm sorry, I'm a sun sign, air sign, and I love me some that. I love justice too. I don't fear justice because, you know, if I've done wrong, you know, please hold me accountable. It works in the reverse as well. All right, I'm going to get to the session. Sorry, guys. It's been a powerful read. I knew this would be. It's a little longer than normal, too. But in the past, guys, wow. And as I mentioned before, the Spacious Tarot has no humans. The only human is the Death card, and it's not a body. But in the past, you got the Devil. And I think this is a very poignant card because what it is it's the skyline through trees at night. And you can tell that the trees look like bars. And it really does. It looks like, you don't know if the sun is setting or rising, but it really does kind of give you that feeling of setting, right? Like things are about to turn black. And what I get from that is that, you know, there's no bad cards in tarot, but typically the Devil is codependency. It's feeling trapped. It's feeling stuck. It's feeling, you know, obligated to something that you can't get away from, right? It can mean addictions. It can mean that, you know, sometimes you're stuck from the results of your own actions. You know, sometimes that can be addictions to things like, we mentioned before that sometimes the Five of Pentacles can be, you know, taking gambles or being addicted to the thrill of gambling. You know, sometimes you win big, sometimes you lose big. And if you lose big, sometimes it leaves you obligated to people or situations that you have to pay back. And it can, in this card in particular, I am hearing the word prison, right? Like you're feeling, in the past you kind of felt imprisoned by some kind of obligations that you have. Now, again, it really is speaking to me of some kind of situation with someone. It could be someone that you owe money to, or that you somehow, I'm hearing the word indebted. I'm hearing the word indebted. Like you feel like you'll never pay it off, like you'll never be free. Yeah, almost like a debtor's prison. And it doesn't necessarily have to be money wise. It doesn't necessarily, I did see justice, which could be like legal related, but I'm seeing more of like an obligation to something or someone that's leaving you feeling a sense of lack. Now, the sunshine in this is that underneath, and these are two major arcana cards. These are real deal Holyfield. These are bigger life events. I always say the minors are like, if you think of the majors as the big gears of a clock, they're the bigger events. They're the gears that have been turning first, and then they touch and they move the smaller gears, which are the smaller circumstances in your life. But so you have this indebtedness, you have this thing that feels like a prison. Right underneath it, you have temperance. And this is a beautiful card. You see fire coming up from the bottom, and you have ice coming down from the top, and you see steam in between, right? And when you look at the traditional temperance card, it's an angel that's balancing two opposing elements. It is usually water and fire. And here, with it being ice, it's creating steam. It's creating steam. And I do get a sense, and the fact that these are major arcanas, and we talked about it being kind of like in a bigger scheme, I do think in temperance it normally is an angel doing the mixing. Because this is an all-natural deck, you have fire and ice, but you got to think, okay, where did that fire come from? How did fire come to be in the same presence as ice, right? It almost seems like a divine, circumstance. If you've ever had situations, and I like to believe it this way, just to kind of put it into some perspective. When you have sudden things happen, like if you have like a tower moment, sometimes that tower moment is for the best. It doesn't, in hindsight, it was the catalyst that brought the change that needed to happen. I'm kind of getting this feeling because, again, how would fire be in the presence of ice unless something happened? A lightning bolt struck something and caught fire. And what it's doing is it's taking those opposite elements, taking ice and fire and making steam. And it's melting both, right? The water's putting out the fire, and the fire is melting the ice, so you get steam. And steam is an air, it's a gas. It can go anywhere from there, right? You can go anywhere. So, and again, with the devil being kind of related to fire, I think something is happening now. I do get a sense that there's some kind of catalyst. And the fact that once we get to your present energy, you have an ace, I do think that one cycle is ending and another's beginning. But I do think some kind of event started this cycle, and it was meant to happen. This is the universe balancing the scales. But the devil definitely has, and especially with justice trying to pop out, the devil is sometimes a self-imposed limitation, right? Because the devil talks about addictions. I hate to say it this way, you might not be completely innocent in creating this Five of Pentacles situation. You might have had a hand in it in some kind of behavior that you had, but the universe is not going to punish you for that. We're here to learn lessons, right? We're here to grow. And the way that we grow is we go through some tough experiences, we learn from them, keyword learn from them, and then you grow past it and you know better next time. So I do think that you found yourself in a sticky situation. It might have been of your own making, but it did highlight, it highlighted either a behavior or some kind of addiction that causes this hardship. But I do think that the universe is creating a situation. It's trying to, because again, ice is frozen and fire is burning what it can. The universe is trying to, the other thing is that the devil usually has two sides to it. It has the obligator and the obligatee, right? And, I think the universe is trying to balance out that debt. And it's trying to help you balance out that debt. You might have to pay a little bit of it back, though. So, because it's recalibrating, it's balancing the scales, right? Now, your current energy is that Five of Pentacles, right? It is that Five of Pentacles, and you see the dog walking up the tall mountain. So I think and it being right next to this prison, I do think that you've walked, I'm hearing walk through the valley. I think you have walked through the valley. I think you're hungry and you don't have much energy and you have to climb this barren hill, you know. So I do think that you've experienced that Five of Pentacles situation where you had to go by, you know, you had to stretch what you had, and it felt like you were just working to just barely get by, which is it feels like the dirge. It feels like you're scraping by, and it makes you feel very gray. It just makes everything feel really, really gray. But what I got excited about with, and what I'm happy for, is that underneath you got the Ace of Wands. And the Ace of Wands in this deck, you see that spark coming from the tip of the wand? It's like a magic wand, right? And it makes me think of the Magician. The Magician didn't want to come out, but it makes me think that right now, I do think you're coming because, again, you know, the devil energy, the obligation, the codependency is being balanced right now. It's being recalibrated. You're still doing the work, right? You still feel that lack, but presently, just beyond that lack, I think when you get to the top of the hill, you're gonna have a start, right? You are on the brink of a new start, and you got two aces here, guys. The future has an ace as well. That is excellent. I'm sorry, I'm getting animated. Wow, this is, I'm getting the energy off your cards. I'm getting animated because this is positive. This is very, very positive. And it's going to feel, you know what, it's the wand. I'm feeling excitement. And I do also feel like it's almost like you're going to get to that wand the moment you get up to, because this looks like Stonehenge, right? I'm hearing that you're in the home stretch. You're working towards something, right? Maybe you're working to pay off this debt, and that's how it's getting recalibrated. Because the other thing is fire and wands, you know, fire is melting the ice. And you're about to have a great new start, and it's almost like you're going up to the mountaintop to get that new start. You're going to be a little tired when you get there too, because I don't think you've been taking care of yourself. You might have been, you know, foregoing food or resources. You know, it is almost like, you know, let me just get there, you know, let me put every dime towards paying off what I got to. You know, you'll eat the $3 bean burritos for 4 weeks straight in order to pay off that debt so you don't have to deal with it anymore, right? That's kind of the energy that I'm getting. You're in the home stretch. You're like, let me just get this off my plate because I'm going to go straight into my Ace of Wands, and I'm going to forget that, you know, you won't ever forget it, but you'll be like, you know, bye. Peace, you know, peace and love, and then don't, you know, learn my lesson, right? But as we go forward, you know how I told you that you'll probably, and it's going from a 5 to a 4, and 5 is the number of change. You're really going to have a peaceful look at that. And doesn't it look like a mountaintop? And there's more snow. The 4 of Wands is a card of rest. It's a card of rest. The other thing is that I did also mention sometimes this can be a sign of a little bit of ailment. I'm not getting so much, I don't want to scare you, I'm not getting so much of like a strong, I don't think it's a strong sickness. The devil can sometimes indicate that. It can feel like something's holding you back, and sometimes it can be an addiction that makes you sick. But with these two side by side, what I'm seeing is that I do get this sense as if this is a very thin dog. And again, like Lady and the Tramp, it's like Tramp. He hasn't really eaten well, right, for a long time. So when the 4 of Swords is about rest and recuperation, it's also about kind of taking some time out to be in your mind. You see how this is a sitting, I'm flipping things around. You see how this is a sitting bench, but the sky is real peaceful and placid. And you could sit on that bench and just look at the sky, right? And all those swords are just leaned up, like, okay, it's like you got to that mountaintop, and okay, let me sit a minute, let me rest, right? I do think that you had been stretching yourself thin. I do think this is physical. It could be psychological or emotional, but I'm getting more of a physical vibe. I think you've really been depriving yourself in order to get through, in order to get there, to reach the end. But you're going to need a break to take care of yourself. I am also seeing that this is a strong mental break. You're going to need to take a time out in your head. And underneath the Four of Swords, you know what? I am almost getting a psychological vibe, because the Ace of Swords and the Child of Cups. And this is amazing, guys. The last deck got the Page of Cups at the end of the future, too. So if we do have cross watchers, this could be a child. But I'm getting it more of your energy. I'm getting a sense, because aces and pages, aces are strong new beginnings, and pages are learners. They're like they're children. You come in with like a brand new wonderment about what you're learning, and the Child of Cups is a page, and it's emotional. You see how he's just kind of sitting in his bowl. Right? He's a pretty big fish, and he's just like, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to get used to where I'm at, right? So I think you are finally getting out of the sense of lack. I think you are going to take a time out, and you're going to think. Is that this time out is really going to give you food for thought, because the Ace of Swords is a breakthrough. The Ace of Swords is a breakthrough. It's like a mental epiphany, right? And I think once you finally get out of the physical lack and the money lack, you're going to get a chance to pause and think. I think you're also going to be thinking about how you got out of that situation, and what you can do to never be in that situation again. But it's going to be a very slow kind of thought. It's going to be an easy thought. I'm getting a strong sense of meditation. The other thing is that with mountains being in the background, mountains in Lenormand mean problems. So, and the fact that you're so far away from your problems, you're sitting on a bench like Forrest Gump looking at it. I think you're really gonna look at your problems in a new perspective, and I do think you're gonna see them. You're gonna see your problems from a higher perspective. I do think that you're gonna psychologically heal from what you've been through. And you're going to start off in a real innocent foot. I was talking in the last deck, if you scroll through and look at the description for the Page of Cups for the middle deck, a lot of that would apply to this as well. But the page is really, it's about being emotionally open, right? And I think what you want to do is, I'm getting a real strong psychological sense. I think you just, moving forward, you don't want to feel restricted, but you're going to have, I am almost getting a sense that you'll be doing some kind of yoga or some kind of meditation, and you're going to get through opening yourself up emotionally, through just letting yourself be open, a lot of new ideas are going to come to the forefront. Now, if you do have a child, it could be that once you get past this time of hardship, by being with this child, being with this little one, you will get a chance to heal, and you'll also get kind of, you know how sometimes children give you the best ideas, just the things they say just kind of really opens up your mind and has you thinking in a whole new way. It could be that. But I do kind of get the feeling like the Child of Cups is really your energy. I think you just really want to start off on a fresh foot, and you want to be open to the world. The other thing that we kind of talked about, and again, if you get a chance to watch, if you really want some elaboration on this, please check out what we talked about on the last card, because the middle deck got the Page of Cups in reverse, is that we mentioned that times are really hard right now, and times are changing. Our entire economic structure is going through a time of metamorphosis. If you study astrology, and again, I'll put the astrologer hat on a moment, Saturn, the planet of the taskmaster planet, has just gone into Aquarius. and then it went backwards, it went retrograde, and now it's about to go forward and go back to 0 degrees Aquarius. We are in the age of Aquarius. And the age of Aquarius is technology, it's community, it's digital, everything. And what you are seeing right now with pandemics and everything else, our way of living is changing. Our way of, our consumer habits are changing. The way we treat the environment needs to be looked at. The future that we're leaving for children needs to be different, and it's evolving, and that evolution is occurring right now. And what's happening is the way that it's impacted people is some people have been able to adapt to what's going on and survive, and some of them could even thrive. Some people are being hit very, very hard, and businesses are changing, businesses are closing, businesses are being forced to very dramatically adapt. And I really get the sense that if your Five of Pentacles is related to employment, what this is doing is it's giving you a time of peace. It's like almost like a forced, and I know it's terrible, but any big change in life is like this, right? Any loss, anything you go through, it gives you a forced sense of quiet, right? Something happens, and I feel for you if it does involve the loss of a job or something like that. What do you have after that? You have a time. It's like the star following the tower. You have a moment to think and say, okay, where do I go from here? Where do I go now? And the beautiful thing about being in your head and being able to think about that is that you are a part of this evolution, right? The way the economy is changing, the needs that people have moving forward, because we talked about that. You would think that so many people think that in order to be successful in business, you have to think about what makes money. So you're like, oh, okay, well, I need to see the King of Pentacles because I need to know what makes money. No, if you want to be successful in business, you need to know what matters to people. And what matters to people is the Page of Cups. It's the Child of Cups. If the way of the future is, buying things online, then, where are the shipping services going to come from that? Mail has become more important. The ability to see the right inventory through the internet. Technology has really had to step up, working remotely. If you think about, okay, where can I go from here? How can I serve a community? It isn't going to be, okay, what makes money? It's going to be, what do people need? What do people want? Right? What's their Page of Cups? What's their emotional? And you almost have to look at it through the eyes of someone very innocent, like a page, someone who's new to this, because you're new to this, right? And it's one of those things where and you can watch it. There's some great channels, there's some great videos here that talk about different companies that have, reached their peak of productivity and then later went obsolete because they didn't know how to adapt, or they thought the future was going to be different. You, in the future, you see how much beautiful purples and blues are here? Look at this, guys. You have clarity coming to you. And I really think that you are going to get ideas. You're going to open yourself up to ideas that are really going to help you in the future. Right? And I think that you could be a part of this evolution. I think times will get better for you, and this is going to help you evolve, right? But I do think that you have to rest and let yourself heal from this experience, because you also see how dark this is, and then in the darkness you got a spark. And then you're walking up towards the light and you see the sky. It's still really gray, but the sky is light. Then look at that. It's almost like you made it, right? And, and you have farther to go. You're starting again, right? You have 2 aces and a page. But I do encourage you to rest, take care of yourself, just kind of open your mind. Don't be restricted by anything. That's the other thing. Don't restrict your emotions and don't restrict your mind. Just let your ideas kind of run, right? Let them be real emotionally open. Just kind of, you know, maybe you even find this, maybe you even think of this while you're laying in the bath. That's the other thing. That's self-care, right? You know, after you've had a really crappy, after the Five of Pentacles, you need a bath. You know, soak in the bathtub. You know, let your mind wander. But I do think I see a really bright future, guys. I think the sky is lightening. The sun is coming out, right? It's still a little bit gray, but you have a really bright future there. And 2 aces in a page, that's fantastic. Now, the 2 cards that you got is you got Believe. And look at how much blue and purple is here, guys. It's like the same purple colors, right? You know? But you got Believe, and it says, I believe that each check I write brings money back to me tenfold. See? The other thing is sometimes when you have an investment in something, it might seem like a crazy idea, you know? You know, you think of CEOs, you thought, oh, okay, oh my God, they're nuts. Why in the world are they doing this, you know? And then it turns out to be the next thing. I really think that it's kind of like that, but you don't have to jump in both feet, you know, start real small, you know, just kind of dabble. And then the other one is Honesty, and it says, I am fair and honest, and that attracts fairness and honesty into my life. And honestly guys, sorry, no pun, some pun intended there. The Ace of Swords is breakthrough, and it is honesty. It is honesty, and you had Justice that wanted to come out. It is quite possible that maybe in the past you dealt with some dishonest people, and maybe it took you some time to get away from that. You know, you had to School of Hard Knocks. But I do think that this is also, you know, if you do have to, the other thing that I'm kind of getting is if you do have to explain some of this devil to someone, just be very honest. The other thing is that I think moving forward, you're going to be very honest. You're going to expect everything to be very on the level in your business dealings and with your money. That way you don't fall back into any devil energy. But it definitely looks really bright, guys. But definitely as you move forward, you know, heal, recover, kind of let your mind and your emotions open up, let it drift, and, you know, believe that, you know, what you put out into the world comes back tenfold. And just know that you are fair and honest in everything you do. I think that's the other sign. That also speaks to me a lot of business. Like, you notice that the businesses that always do the right thing are the ones that thrive. They're the ones who survive, no matter how tough it gets, right? But that's a really beautiful read, guys. I really enjoyed that. And I get a positive energy from your dog here too. I think that even when you face the hardest of times, I think you are the person who kind of tries to see the glass as half full. And I love that deck. That's a gorgeous deck. But all right, guys, wow. Oh my gosh, I think this is my longest video yet. But the How to Tarots do run a little bit longer, and the Five of Pentacles, again, it's the card that not everybody wants to see, but it's the card that's good to know. It's good to know because things do get better. There's sunlight after the dark, right? But I hope that you have a good week. Please, if you are so inclined, if you like the content of my channel, I would be very honored if you would like, comment, and subscribe. I do host a second video every Saturday. It is the weekly energy card reading. If you'd like to check it out, it's a quick 3-card spread that talks about your energies for the next 7 days. I do sprinkle in other readings, and I owe you one. I'm long overdue, and I promise I'll get another one out. Just special readings that talk about anything from love to finance to career. And but I hope you can join me then, and I'll catch you later. Bye.